but you're also considering, I think, like your emotions, other people's emotions. You're being more empathetic and you're doing things throughout your life that are keeping you, um, I guess, living a richer life. Welcome back to the Illuminated Path. This is episode 81. What are we talking about today?
We're talking about turning mindfulness into action. So, we thought this was an important topic because our last two episodes were all about mindfulness and having that awareness. But then, where do you go from there? What do you do with it? So,
Yeah,
continuing that conversation.
I
Sorry.
like this one. No, I'm sorry. I like this one because I think so much of the conversation of mindfulness is, things you should do. You should do this. You should do that. This will help, right? But what does it look like in actual practice? Because it doesn't mean you're this perfect person that's always, perfectly disciplined and has it all figured out. So, how's the week?
Good. Just about 26 weeks.
Yeah.
Feeling very large. We've been taking the weekly pictures, and I feel like from like week 22 to now, like it's been a very big noticeable jump just between like that month.
Mm,
And it's really weird. I gotta say, like looking at myself in the mirror and looking down at myself, I feel so big. But then when I take a picture and look at the picture, I'm like, oh, it's not as big as I'm like perceiving it to be in a mirror. So
yeah.
I'm sure that's something most pregnant people experience.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. It's kind of like a disconnect.
Well, I think it's been interesting because, like, initially it was just kind of like you looked bigger, whereas now you look like you have a baby bump. So I think your your shape looks a little more defined, I guess.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Yeah. And I got my hair done.
love it.
So that was wonderful. How about you?
Not much with me. Lots of new and exciting stuff with trading. I basically put together my playbook, so it's like when I'm on the charts, I have my strategies and the plan was for it to be about 4 or 5. It ended up being 7, but I love all of them. I'm very happy with them. I have a good, strong understanding of using all of them. So right now, only 2 of them are on live accounts, but I'm really excited to get the rest on there and also to have my playbook. Um, that's just kind of the greatest thing to have so that I don't make mistakes on the charts. I see what I need to see and trade accordingly. And it'll be cool to be able to teach people with that. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's get started.
So, mindfulness, just as a quick recap, it's really having awareness of that present moment, not judging yourself for, not being present or for the thoughts or things that you were going through before you kind of became aware. So we wanted to talk today about so now you have this awareness and you're able to like find a little bit of presence, but now what do you do with it? So how can you actually create intentional change and integrate into your life? Because we can kind of sometimes get stuck and be like, okay, I'm aware, I know what I'm doing. I can see this bad habit, I can see this thing that I keep doing, but you just have so much awareness around it that you're kind of just like stuck in that phase.
Yeah.
So mindfulness is not just about like being still. It's not just about meditation. It's about having so much awareness and being really present and being able to use that as like an important tool to take action, to be able to move forward, to be able to like go after goals or just make change in your life.
I think that's important because I feel like so much of mindfulness people think meditation. And it's not that they don't overlap or that they don't go together. It's just that they're not necessarily the same thing. Meditation, you have this practice, this very still moment. Mindfulness is the practice that you're carrying into your day.
Right.
Um, and that's something that allows you to, I think, feel more feelings, like feel stronger feelings and emotions because you're present for your life. You're not on autopilot looking at the next thing. Um, but you're also considering, I think, like your emotions, other people's emotions. You're being more empathetic and you're doing things throughout your life that are keeping you, I guess, living a richer life. in that sense.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about, without action, you can remain stuck, and there's a gap between like knowing what's going on, knowing what you're doing. Again, like maybe you've identified a bad habit or something, and you can catch yourself doing it, like scrolling on your phone or something. You know you're doing it. You know it's creating negative outcomes in your life. You know it's maybe stopping you from doing other things because you're getting stuck. But what are you actually doing about that after you become aware of it?
Yeah.
So mindfulness can really help you to identify the patterns and the triggers in your thoughts and actions so that you can change them.
I think that, so this makes me think a lot about our conversation with Jen Harris. Um, so for me, the biggest challenge I've had with mindfulness is, and this is like a very important thing in my life right now, is binge eating. Like I've really struggled. I'll do great all throughout the day. And then comes to nighttime and like I want my sweet treat. I want my evening snack. And then one turns into two and so on. And that is a time where I've had to break that cycle many times throughout my life. And I don't want to keep doing it. But that cycle only breaks when I have the moment of like mindfully being there and recognizing what I'm doing.
Mm.
And this makes me think of our conversation with Jen Harris because shout out Jen, nutrition coach Jen Harris. She's wonderful. She's also a coach in a lot of things. Um, Great human. Um, but in that moment, we talked about, having that moment, but also if you are deciding that you're going to do it anyway, like that's okay. You can be human, but do it consciously.
Yeah.
And I think that carrying that level of consciousness into that decision is important and really is what starts that cycle. You can't always just say, I'm not going to do it anymore and then be done. But I think starting to recognize that you're doing it is also a good starting point too.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was just saying. Like you're noticing the pattern
Yeah.
and you're choosing which way are you going to go? Keep on with the pattern or break the pattern. Like
Yeah.
start to break it and take the more mindful action that you want to be taking.
Mm-hmm.
So, how can you turn it into action? Your intention is extremely important because when you're setting intention, like you're really setting a goal, you're really figuring out what is in alignment with you. What are your values? What are your aspirations? What are your goals? So you're not just like, you have to like really have a why behind it. Like, what is your reason? What is the bigger picture for you? If you're just like, oh, I shouldn't do this because I know it's not good, that's not going to help you to be like really mindful about making that decision every time.
Yeah.
So when you really have intention and can see the bigger picture, can see past the immediate, right? It reminds me of that thing you've said before,
What?
where you're talking about like the now versus like the future.
Oh, global benefit and local benefit.
Yeah. So like
I'm getting a tattoo about that at some point.
local benefit being like, is it going to benefit you right now? Going back to your food example, like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm going to get the dopamine hit and I'm going to
Right.
satisfy a craving. But global benefit, meaning like in the future, what is like the bigger picture?
Yeah. Bigger picture. What are my goals? What's important? I'm having that conversation with myself now. Is like I've gotten to the point so many times of being in great shape and like, and this is my whole thing. I want to have a six pack. I really do. And I get right there and then I self sabotage and then I gain like another 20, 25 pounds. And I've just been in this cycle for years. And so I'm having that conversation with myself now of like, I'm in my 30s and I'm not doing this another decade.
You are 30. You're not in your 30s yet. But yeah, I got you.
I'm in my 30s.
So having all of this awareness and being able to then take a mindful action driven by a conscious choice rather than an impulsive reaction.
Yeah.
The impulsive reactions are going to win every time if you are on autopilot
Mm-hmm.
and not consciously choosing the next action.
Yeah. And I think this gets into a whole other conversation about your subconscious programming and comfort zone and familiar hell over unfamiliar heaven and the way we're wired. So I really think like And you know, this is, I think, a moment for me too. Like, I haven't been meditating. And when you meditate, you carry that presence and that mindfulness into your life in a lot of what you do. And it's not really about the practice of just quieting your mind, it's about what it does for the rest of your life, for the moments that you have throughout your day to have that presence and have that mindfulness.
Yeah, absolutely. So, to break it down into like four really simple steps, okay? Number one is pause. You have to take a second and recognize and realize what is happening right now. Like, that is step one. Just pause.
Yeah, like you need the awareness of the situation happening. So let's run through this like with my food example because I think that's,
Okay.
but I think it's relatable. You know,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people do it. So pause. That is the first step of like catching the situation and seeing what's going on.
Right.
So
Because,
like I'm opening the pantry at night, right? I'm opening the cabinet. I'm taking a look. I'm looking for a sweet treat.
and then reflect. So, you can't really start to reflect unless you've like slowed down. And this is again, like, this is mindfulness. I am present. And now because I'm present, I actually like recognize and can see what I'm doing. So now you're reflecting, well, what am I feeling? What do I actually need? What am I noticing?
So I think that's the moment where putting this into practice would be like asking myself, am I actually hungry or am I looking for dopamine? Right? Am I eating for nutrition or am I eating for dopamine?
Mm. And that's like being really honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Then choose. So what aligns with your values? Going back to again, like those benefits, like a current benefit or long term benefits or goals, or what you want right now.
Yeah. So like the other night we had an awful dinner. We had some like taquitos and I did not like them. And later at night, I was hungry. I didn't have a good dinner. It wasn't particularly nutritious. In that moment, sure, I could probably choose to eat a little more. But if I was just going for some, I don't know, sour gummies, that's you know, me choosing dopamine. They're literally just glucose syrup. So
Right.
I think, you know, again, in the moment that you choose, you're either choosing, you know, is it nutrition? Is it dopamine? If it's nutrition, okay, sure, you know, find your balance, find your moderation and what you need. If it's dopamine, good job, you caught the cycle, right? And let's continue to make that progress and catch the cycle, but also again, in moderation. And there's a whole conversation there. I think you can like set limits for yourself. I do all kinds of little things of like grab one serving, and when it works, it works. Some nights I strike out, but there's things you can do there too if you are choosing that that isn't the moment you're going to break the cycle right away.
Yeah. I think that just made me think an episode on like moderation would be wonderful.
I like that.
And then you're acting. So this is the moment like you're choosing and acting. This is the moment where you're integrating potential change, where
Yeah.
you're breaking the pattern, where you are mindful and choosing something different and you're choosing a new path forward, literally. So you're taking a step, even if it's an imperfect step.
Yeah.
What is the action that you're deciding to do and you're consciously deciding it?
Yeah. And I think too, like that, it also makes me think of about like, you know, this whole situation of binge eating at night. It really, there's so much going on there, right? Like there's so many patterns within that. I'm breaking my fast. I'm eating late. I'm looking for something sweet. I having moderation? So there's a lot in there. And I think like, you know, one thing I found that has worked really well for me that I haven't done every time, but if I eat dinner and I don't have calories to keep eating, I don't want to do dessert and I want to just start my fast, I go brush my teeth right away. When I do that, I typically fast pretty easily and I don't break my fast later. So I think that a part of it is about learning about yourself. And if you are taking that imperfect step, that imperfect action, are there other things you can do to kind of continue to set yourself up for success? Or I guess this isn't a good word, but like do damage control, right? Of like, I don't want to have 15 snacks. Can I choose one?
Hmm.
So I think that as you choose, also think about what other patterns exist there and how can you act in a way that it might not break the cycle right now, but it might get you started on that path.
Right, because you're not going to snap your fingers and be like, "Well, I've never going to do that again and I'm now perfect."
Yeah.
And that's the part of like the non-judgmental part too
Yeah,
of
you
mindfulness.
can't shame yourself in this like cycle.
Right.
Just going to feel guilt and then shame and then you'll just repeat the cycle over and over and over again.
Yeah. So that was a good example. So pause, reflect, choose, act. And then, unless you have anything else on that, I wanted to just share another kind of common example.
No, that's good.
So having a mindful moment where maybe someone's inviting you to or asking you to help them with like a project or something. And your immediate instinct is to just be like, yeah, sure. Um, but then you end up realizing that doesn't feel so good. Like I have a pit in my stomach. Like I don't actually want to help with that. I just felt like I had to. Maybe there's a little people pleasing behind that.
Yeah.
Um, so instead of like immediately responding to people, you can pause, check in with, what is your capacity? What is your ability to do this? Is it interfering with your own personal priorities? And give yourself the permission to say, well, let me think about it. I'll get back to you.
I think not making a decision right in the moment all the time is an incredibly valuable skill
Yeah.
to be able to communicate, like, I will make a decision at a later date because it gives you the chance to just get out of that company, not feel the pressure of it, and really have that moment of self reflection of, like, is this right for me?
Yeah.
I think, let me get back to you is a very powerful phrase.
Hmm. So, just a few tips to how to like continue practicing this daily. You could do, something like a morning check-in or a journaling prompt. Ask yourself things like, "What's true for me today? How am I feeling about, X, Y, and Z?" Like maybe there's a specific thing you're trying to work on. Like you have to take the time to like actually reflect on it and
Mm.
have those conversations with yourself.
When I had my writing desk up, I used to write two questions to myself every day. I would say, how are you feeling today? Check in. I think that's so important. Like, we don't have those open conversations with ourselves. And I would also write, how were your habits yesterday? And that was a time for me to check in on how did I eat? How did I exercise? How did I spend time with family? Did I spend time in gratitude? Did I consume too much content? And like, those were really important and powerful questions. And that time was very powerful.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to getting my writing desk back down here.
Setting intentions and then actually acting on them. So again, like we were saying before, it's important to have an intention, like an actual reason why you want to take specific actions. You have to really think about that, put some thought into it, because that's what's going to be the driver for the change.
Yeah.
Building trust with yourself by following through in whatever way, like small ways, taking big actions. You have to start to build trust with yourself that
Yeah.
you can now kind of take this new path. And noticing when you're having resistance, and noticing it and using it as like just more information for yourself, not using it as a, I should just stop here. I should stop trying because this is too hard. Like that's where the judgment comes in. That's where you can really, again, get stuck. So take a step back and be like, okay, what can I do with this information?
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it. Short and sweet today.
Alrighty.
Somewhat short. Anyways. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.